Hello Patriots, it's your boy, Caption America, back in action again. On this episode, I want to present my case on some concerns I have regarding the No Kings movement and the connection I feel that it has to the communist goals entered into the congressional record way back in 1963. The following content contains content and references to the communist goals outlined in that record. All right, America, let's dig in. What if the so-called grassroots explosion of the No Kings rallies was less about everyday Americans rising up and more about a well-oiled machine greased by billionaire backers? Does it strike anyone as odd that Indivisible, the puppet masters behind this spectacle, claims to be the voice of the voiceless, while their strings lead straight to the elite? Buckle up, folks. We're peeling back the layers on how this movement mirrors color revolutions abroad, where spontaneous uprisings topple regimes with a wink from foreign funders. It's a classic contradiction. Grassroots? Hardly. This is AstroTurf at its finest, funded by NGOs and megadonors who treat democracy like a board game they always win. Take Indivisible, founded by Leah Greenberg and Ezra Levin, a dynamic duo, with resumes screaming establishment ties. Greenberg's State Department stints in human rights hotspots like Burma, Levin's gigs at the Soros-linked Open Society Foundations, it's just like they majored in Democracy Export 101. Their 2016 Google Doc guide flipped Tea Party tactics for the left, spawning 5,000 local groups by 2017. Fast forward to October 18, 2025. No Kings rallies erupt in 2,600 spots across 50 states, coordinated via apps like Mobilized at US, with toolkits for every chant and sign. Does this sound homegrown to you? Think again. Their annual budget tops $10 million. You heard that right. But only 22% trickles in from small donors through ActBlue, that democratic fundraising juggernaut, the party's digital cash cow, processing billions for candidates and causes aligned with the blue machine. The real muscle? 78% from heavy hitters like Soros Open Society, $7.61 million since 2017, Tides Foundation, $45 million pass-through, and Arabella Advisors' 1630 Fund, $79 million to allies. Add Ford, $51 million, Rockefeller, $28 million, Buffett, $16 million, and Weiss, $293 million for affiliates. And let's not forget the unions like SEIU and AFT chipping in logistics. These aren't donations, they're directives, implying influence that turns protest into project. This setup echoes color revolutions, like Ukraine's Orange Wave in 2004 and Georgia's Rose in 2003, where US-backed NGOs funnel cash for mass mobs, media spins, and regime change. Indivisible's nonviolent playbook? Straight from Gene Sharp's manual, just domesticated for DC. It's no coincidence, Levin Soros days tied to global democracy promotion. And here's the tie-in to those 1963 communist goals. Goal 27. Support socialist movements for centralized control over education, welfare, and more. Centralized? You bet, from billionaire bunkers to street-level scripts. But wait. Let's give credit where credit is due. Hats off to Indivisible and the No Kings crew for keeping it nonviolent, channeling that American spirit of peaceful protest as enshrined in the First Amendment. No riots, just rallies. That's how we do dissent in America. How do you explain people-powered protest that racks up hundreds of millions without a single garage sale? What if the No Kings extravaganza, orchestrated by Indivisible, wasn't fueled by public passion, but by a donor class with agendas longer than a CVS receipt? Let's dissect this funding farce, where the grassroots label wilts under the heat of mega money, a direct contradiction to their bottom-up branding. This isn't just cash, it's control, mirroring how color revolutions abroad get bankrolled to flip governments like pancakes. And what about Indivisible's No Kings ecosystem? Estimated at $294 million by congressional probes, to cover things like buses, banners, and the usual propaganda needed to sway public opinion. And tell me, what do you think of this number? Their annual take? $10 million bucks? Now that's no small potatoes, and let's not forget to mention PAC, at $2.5 million in 2024. And what's the grassroots slice of this all-American apple pie? A pathetic 22%, amounting to about $2.2 million from ActBlue's small donor pipeline. Now, let me tell you about ActBlue. This Democratic powerhouse is essentially the Democratic Party's ATM, funneling billions to candidates, PACs, and progressive.orgs directly tied to the DNC machine. Proportionally, it would seem like this movement is not the grassroots phenomenon the media wants us to believe, but instead, it is clearly a mechanism by which the global elite move pawns on a chessboard as a means to an end. Does it make any sense that a donor-driven demo gets wall-to-wall coverage like it's the Super Bowl of suffrage? What if CNN and MSNBC weren't just reporting the No Kings rallies but actively amplifying Indivisible's script to sway the masses? Amplification, folks, that's the sneaky sauce where selective spins make molehills into mountains, tying directly to Goal 15. Infiltrate the press, and Goal 16, gain control of radio, TV, and motion pictures. It's how they manufacture consent, turning funded fury into folk outrage. Indivisible's tactic? Pre-package the narrative, toolkits with hashtags, soundbites, and spokespeople ready for prime time. Then feed the beast, MSNBC and CNN, gobble it up, broadcasting, millions rising like gospel. Levin's airtime, defy the tyrant. Straight from their echo chamber. Post-October 18, MSNBC aired Boston footage that skeptics pegged as 2017 women's march reruns. Pink hats, familiar angles, labeled live. Fact-checkers debunked, but the intent? Deceive viewers into seeing seas of discontent where only puddles existed. CNN's DC coverage. Thin crowds got drone shot magic, inflating sparse spots. Just to sway opinion, Media Research Center clocks 90% plus of anti-Trump bias. Not news but a nudge towards the narrative. This mirrors color revolutions. Western media allies blast, people power reels, pressuring regimes. This is a domestic psyop, with indivisible Soros ties, ensuring favorable frames. Goal 15 and 16 in high definition, all the while the press puppets, peddling the plot. How do you unify a rented crowd under one banner without them spotting the corporate logo? What if Indivisibles? No Kings branding wasn't clever creativity, but a color revolution import designed to mask the megadonor machinery? It's the glue of this grassroots sham, a contradiction, where polished packaging sells the people's pitch, advancing Goal 16's cultural infiltration. Indivisibles look blue and red flag motifs, a circled letter I, for unbreakable unity and slogans like, "In America, we don't do kings." Nodding to founders while winking at funders. Toolkits deliver signs, chants, even vests for marshals help create the nonviolent theater for the cameras. Founders' book preaches hyperlocal heroes, but its globalist gloss echoes Serbia's outpour. Fist, or Hong Kong's umbrellas, US branded for regime rattle. No kings? Symbolic crowns crushed, amplified by partners like Move On and DSA. This branding unifies the facade, diverse faces chanting scripted lines, obscuring the 78% donor dominance. Farce? Totally. Real grassroots don't need ad agencies. It's Goal 15's, press play, unified visuals sway the scripted. Even if the No Kings rallies hit that magical 7 million mark. And that's a stretch. What is it, compared to the 74 million Americans who voted Trump back into office, sweeping both the popular vote and electoral college? How do you explain polls showing his approval ratings climbing, post-protest, like the rallies were free PR? It's the ultimate contradiction. Inflated crowds, via media tricks, but real mandates come from ballots, not bullhorns, a ploy tied to Goal 27's socialist swells. Organizers hyped 7 million, based on RSVPs and June precursors, but data dives peg 4.4 to 6.1 million. Sure, that's big, but no revolution. Boston numbers 100,000 max, DC, 8 to 10,000. Media deception? Those epic images, recycled from women's marches, per the detectives on X, intent to fool folks into thinking dissatisfaction's an epidemic. So patriots. This is where we end things. Feel free to disagree. But I have presented my case and my concerns, and if you see things differently, let's have that conversation.